From the film room to your living room. Why is the NFL selling what many coaches consider secret?
It was time that very well-kept secret footage was made available to our fans because they drive the game.
Plus, it's graduation season, and sport management is a hot degree.
If you're going to be a lawyer, you have to go to law school. If you're going to be a doctor, you have to go to medical school. So we're looking for skilled individuals.
From grad schools to high schools, everybody's studying the business of sports.
I'd rather be behind the scenes with the athletes, the lawyers, or the managers.
Class is in session. Sportfolio starts now. Hello, I'm Rick Horrow, and welcome to Sportfolio. Congratulations to all members of the class of 2012. This week, we look at the academic discipline of sport management and what its growth means to the industry. And we'll also introduce you to a baseball slugger who's juicing for profit. No, it's not what you think. But let's start by checking in with the NFL, a busy week at the league office, with members of the New Orleans Saints appealing their suspensions in what has come to be known as Bountygate. We're joined today by NFL Executive Vice President of Football Operations Ray Anderson, who oversees the competition committee among his multitude of other duties. Hey, Ray, beyond the crime and punishment aspects of this case, your job involves monitoring of the competitive culture of the NFL. So tell us how the league and the Players Association are moving forward to make sure these bounty incidents don't recur.
Well, hopefully we're educating all the constituents that it's something that simply won't be tolerated, that player health and safety is paramount, and it should be for everyone involved with football. And so from our perspective, we're going to aggressively enforce the rules and educate about what the expectations are. And we believe, I certainly believe, that the Players Association knows what's in the best interest of their constituents and will have them completely buy in. So it's a collaborative effort going forward, but we're doing some things now that are causing some consternation, but that's the way of the world. We're going to continue to enforce very aggressively. Bounties will no longer be a part of the NFL culture.
You've been around the industry and around the NFL to give us some perspective. Outside of labor impasses, do you think Bountygate is the most serious off-season problem we've seen during your tenure with the NFL?
Certainly, because it has such harmful, wide-ranging effects if it isn't terminated and that practice isn't terminated immediately. So we're the platform for change. We take that very seriously, and that's why it's getting the kind of attention it's getting, because the message is very clear. It will not be tolerated, and we're going to change the culture.
Shift to fans for a second. Just last week, an announcement that has fans and the media buzzing. NFL allowing fans to view the camera feed that shows all 22 players on the field. For a $70 subscription, anyone can access the game film that previously was available only to the coaches. It couldn't have been easy to get consensus on that, was it?
No, it wasn't. But I think as the game has evolved, there's a greater appreciation that the fan and our customers come first. There's an avidity for NFL football in terms of fantasy football, and anything related involves the more information, the better informed they are, the more they enjoy the game. So it was time that very well-kept secret footage was made available to our fans because they drive the game.
In February at the Combine, we asked a bunch of football people about the decision to let fans attend there. Most think the league is very progressive in seeking ways to engage fans. Teams, on the other hand, are more likely to worry about confidentiality and the competitive edge. What do you think of that statement? True?
Well, you know, there's so many avenues for information to get disseminated now. And, you know, times have changed, innovation, technology. So having fans in the stadium being able to essentially tweet or go on social media sites to share what they were seeing, it's not an invasion of privacy anymore. It's not going to distribute confidential or privileged information. Those days and those fears are behind us, and what we want to do is to offer NFL football to fans in as many ways as we can to give them an inside look, because it just builds up their interest, and that's good for all of us.
Talk about another rule, the change that had a big impact on the game in 2011. You moved the kickoff line up 5 yards, 53% more touchbacks, and 40% fewer concussions. Are you happy with those numbers, or are there more tweaks coming along?
Well, we've got to continue to monitor. That was just the first year. Certainly that rule change was driven strictly by player health and safety concerns. That kickoff play disproportionately was our most dangerous play in football. We anticipated the number of kickoffs not returned would go up, and that happened. But we are pleased with the concussion mitigation effect. So we're going to stay with it for another year, monitor it very closely, and then revisit it at the end of the year. But player health and safety is paramount to us. And if we see that the change continues to protect player health and safety, I think you'll see it stay.
Let's talk about another competitive on-field issue. You worked out a deal with the Players Association to keep the Pro Bowl going and theoretically make the game more competitive. But, my friend, if you pull that off, we send you to the Middle East to broker some peace and then put you in the Hall of Fame. How are you going to do it?
Well, very frankly, we've got to put ownership of the competitive aspects of the game back on the players, because the last 3 years in particular, it has not been a competitive game up to NFL standards. But the players made a very influential and vigorous pitch to keep the game over there. They want to be able to celebrate their status as Pro Bowl players, but we've also challenged them to then give back to the fans and at least put on a competitive game so that the game is well represented and the fans are getting real football. So we're going to challenge the players to step up and play competitively in Hawaii this coming off season, and we'll see where we go from there.
NFL Executive Vice President Ray Anderson with a diverse and sophisticated group of business issues on his plate. Thanks for joining us on Sportfolio.
You're welcome, Rick. Thank you.
So you think you'd like to work on some of the tough problems Ray Anderson faces? You might be considering a degree in sport management. Coming up, a couple of top executives discuss the growth of an academic discipline and what it means in the real world.
You really have to have passionate work in this industry, and for me, that's where a sports administration program really gives somebody a competitive advantage.
Stick around and we'll school you on Sportfolio. How do you get a job in sports? There's really no easy answer. You ask 100 executives and you'll probably discover they took 99 different career paths. But in recent years, sport management programs have proliferated, and that's changed the business. Dom Chu sat down with Arizona Diamondbacks president Derek Hall and asked him what he got out of his sport management studies at Ohio University.
I think at the time there were really only 3 or 4, just a handful. I mean, you heard about Ohio University, which was the first of its kind and probably the largest network there was, St. Thomas in Florida, UMass, but there really weren't too many more than that. And I knew I had to get into that program because, in particular, I had a dream of working for the Dodgers one day. Grew up a big Dodger fan, and that was my goal, to work for the Dodgers. Well, this program was started by the O'Malley family. Walter O'Malley created this program at Ohio University with the intent of finding alternatives to just former athletes running his company.
As these young people start to come out from, say, sports management programs, what exactly are you looking for in a candidate? What separates them in terms of their credentials or their ambitions?
Well, I'm looking for the educational background and the experience, but more so for the passion. You really have to have passionate work in this industry, and in particular in baseball. We're the longest of all sports. We have 162 games. We have spring training on top of that for 6 weeks, postseason if you make it on top of that. When you have an entry-level position in baseball, you're not going to make a lot of money. And so for me, I'm looking for someone who has that drive and desire to be in baseball for an entire career, and you can find those people.
There are only so many job openings. How do you see that job market growing? Do you see yourself growing the number of job openings that you have by some exponential amount, or is it fairly limited with regard to how many you can do given the volume in the market that you're in?
I think it's going to continue to grow. I've looked now at our number of full-time employees, and it's really gone from 250 to 350. And when you take our part-timers and our game day staff and our scouts, we're a company of about 2,000 employees. We are just like any other large company where you have a finance department, an HR department, a marketing department. So we're looking for skilled individuals, and you know, you have in-house counsel, for example. You have EAP. So we're looking for people that have expertise in each of those areas, and for me, that's where a sports administration program really gives somebody a competitive advantage. I think if you're going to be a lawyer, you have to go to law school. If you're going to be a doctor, you have to go to medical school. Why not in our profession? Because it is so competitive, and there's so very few jobs. Wouldn't we want to look for somebody that's skilled in the same sort of occupation?
Joining us from San Francisco is longtime sports executive Andy Dolich. He earned his master's in education and sports management from Ohio University, 1971. He now writes the BizBall column at CNNBayArea.com. Taught a class in sport management at Stanford. Andy, only a handful of schools offering sports management degrees when you attended OU. What did it do for you?
It gave me a job that I never had to work a day in my life, Rick. I was not a brilliant student at American University, but when I heard about this program, I said, wow, sports management, I'm going. It put me into a career that took me places that I never thought were possible.
But when did the boom in the number of programs start and why?
It started really in the mid-'80s, and I think in large part because of economics. Schools started to see that it was a great tuition grabber. Who wouldn't want a career in collegiate or professional sports, or now in the world of global sports? So more and more schools started to see it, and hard to believe Ohio University, which was the first, there are now over 325 programs in colleges and universities in the United States offering some sort of program, undergrad and MBA in sports management. Incredible.
A little more than reading the box scores and getting credit for it. It's become more sophisticated. I wholeheartedly agree. And with so many schools to choose from now, give our viewers a little advice. How do you tell them apart, and how do you choose one that will be the most useful for getting a job?
Simply look at their network of people. How many graduates from the program have jobs in sports? Ohio University, the Harvard of sports management, not just saying that for you, Rick, although Harvard doesn't have one. But Ohio University has close to 2,000 graduates. So you have to look at the network, and next, look at the internships that are available. What happens in some of the programs that really are ones that you shouldn't look at is they don't have a network, and they don't get many internships, and their graduates really don't get jobs. Although the business has exploded globally, it's still a tough road to hoe, and these quality programs are feet in the door. That's really what you want.
Well, you're right. We do have courses at Harvard Law and Harvard Business School for that, and we won't debate. They're all wonderful academic institutions as well. And you have been hiring people for sports jobs for 40 years, let's say. Has the academic study of sport management raised the quality of candidates entering the profession? I
think the fact that sports has exploded, that, you know, we have our own section, we have TV shows, and we have all these programs. But the real key, and everybody says, hey, Andy, how do I get to your position? You know, what's the big deal if I'm graduating from a top 10 business school, or if I go to a sports management school, and what should I look for in my job? And I say, subtract the one. And they all look at me like I'm an idiot. What does that mean? I said, most of you young geniuses, you brainiacs, if you graduate from a quality MBA program, you're starting at $125,000 to $150,000 a year. If you're graduating from a quality sports management program, subtract the one. And then they look at me and go, who would be stupid enough to do that? And I go, you will, because the demand is so much greater than the supply.
Andy, stick around, please, if you don't mind, so we can get your thoughts on a New York City high school that's preparing its students for sports careers.
Wish I went there.
And here's our Sportfolio stumper. Dodgers owner Walter O'Malley helped establish the Ohio University Sports Administration graduate program in 1966. What graduate degree did O'Malley himself hold? Answer coming up. Here's the answer to the stumper. Dodgers owner Walter O'Malley earned a Juris Doctor degree from Fordham University School of Law. His undergraduate degree from Penn was in engineering. Welcome back to Sportfolio. Are America's schools preparing students to excel in college and gain skills they need for 21st century careers? One New York City public high school is aiming to fulfill those goals by teaching the business of sports.
What are some of their products, services, and companies? The Knicks, New York Knicks. The Rangers, New York Rangers. That's another one. Fuse TV, that's another. How about Radio City Music Hall? Oh, yeah.
Welcome to a typical classroom in a very unusual high school.
What happens when we lose customers, Imani? No money. We lose money.
Tara, complete this sentence. The typical boss student is?
Articulate, friendly, and intelligent.
Articulate enough to deliver an elevator pitch that would make a professional proud.
Muhammad Ali once said, "I'm gonna show you how great I am." World-speaking innovators will help children show the world how great they are.
Imoni Johnson is a rising senior at Boss, which occupies a floor in this school building. It was founded in 2009 in response to New York City's call for innovative career and technical education concepts.
We wanted to create a school that prepared students with real skills that they would use in the business world.
We're able to shape this curriculum as to what's happening in current events. Many a days I can read the newspaper on my way to work and open up the newspaper and see articles or stories that then relate to the topics that we're discussing in class. So being able to put those together and then being able to present it to the students allows them to be able to have a real world interaction.
Support from the local sports community enriches the Boss experience with guest speakers, field trips, and internships.
This is just a great opportunity for us to give back to the kids and share our experiences behind the scenes.
The leagues, the teams, the networks are constantly inviting us to visit their companies, to interact with students, to come speak to students here.
This year, 2 Boss students are finalists in New York State's high school business plan competition.
It's strictly for athletes.
So is this a bridge to kind of get them to the next level?
This is a bridge also to not even get them a level for playing basketball or any sport, it's just in life.
What's one thing that you learned here that you don't think you would have learned at any other school?
One thing that I've learned here is really working in groups and collaboration. Sometimes I could be a micromanager and like to have everything going at one time, but this school has really stretched me in working with other people.
Teamwork is the norm at Boss, and no one doubts that these young people will be an asset to any business team they decide to join.
Sports, entertainment, music, all those things bring people together. So that becomes a common playing field.
It's really exciting to see the students use their business skills and show that they are the new wave of professionals that are going to graduate from high school, graduate from college, and be successful in the sports industry.
Back with sports executive, consultant, and columnist extraordinaire Andy Dolich. Andy will probably end up working for some of Terra Bellevue's students. They're a pretty impressive bunch. What would be your advice to these kids as they continue their career path toward a career in sports?
What's so great about this is they're getting an early understanding that you don't just have to be a player to be a pro. There's a much greater chance. I'm the poster child for all of these kids. If I could have gotten to a position of working in 4 major sports, so can they. There's hundreds of jobs out there. The world is exploding. The first thing I'd say is learn to speak more than one language. And the opportunities, the doors will open for you at levels that you can't possibly imagine. The fact that young people now understand that sports is a real business and growing every day gives them career choices that we didn't have back in the black and white era of the 70s and 80s in sports management programs.
Andy Dolich, thanks for being with us on Sportfolio.
Always a pleasure to be with you, Rick.
Coming up, a Major League Baseball player who admits he's a juicer.
Well, I've been juicing for about 10 years. Nutrition is so important for me.
New York Yankee Mark Teixeira is invested in a chain of juice bars. Could be a financial home run. We'll explore next. Get Sportfolio wherever you go on the Bloomberg TV Plus app for iPad. Next week on the program, NBC Sports President Mark Lazarus stops by, fresh off the Stanley Cup playoffs and on his way to the Olympics. We'll talk about the battle for supremacy among America's sports networks. Join us next week on Sportfolio. When does a headline about baseball and juicing qualify as a feel-good story? When it's about a player like Mark Teixeira, who's invested in a line of healthy juice products that help him feel good. Bloomberg's Sheila Damarajan has the story.
From Hollywood starlets to world-class athletes, it's all about juice. Fresh pressed juices have become the way to get your daily dose of veggies. Just ask Mark Teixeira, first baseman for the New York Yankees. How did you get into juicing?
Well, I've been juicing for about 10 years. Nutrition is so important for me. My weight is very important, energy, strength, and so I don't necessarily love to eat a ton of vegetables, and juicing was kind of that way for me to get all my vegetables and just feel better.
Teixeira put his money where his mouth is and invested in Juice Press, a New York City-based chain of juice bars founded by Marcus Antibi. Antibi is a Thai boxing raw food fanatic who started Juice Press based on his passion for the product.
It's the highest biological quality food and nutrition that one can put in their body, so You know, if people actually stick to a reasonable diet and include green juices every day, they're going to feel phenomenal.
Today, fresh-pressed juices are a multi-billion-dollar market that's attracted plenty of competition, from small to big. Starbucks recently bought juice maker Evolution Fresh for $30 million. The plan? To sell juice within its existing store base and expand the Evolution Fresh brand. For now, Juice Press says it isn't worried about the competition and is focused on locking up the New York market. But Marquis Jet's co-founder and fellow Juice Press investor Kenny Dichter is thinking well beyond the Big Apple.
400 to 500 store chain in the United States
400
alone.
to 500 stores.
That's where it can be. If it's, that's where the marketplace is. The question is if we can get it there the right way.
In addition to squeezing profits, Tasheri says it's all about feeling good.
If I can invest in something that not only tastes good, but it's fun, also helping people, you know, it's a win-win for everybody.
Cheers. Good luck tonight on the game.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sheila, and thanks to all of our guests on this edition of Sportfolio: Ray Anderson, Andy Dolich, Derek Hall, and the folks at the Business of Sports School in New York. Remember, you can find video extras and all of our past episodes on our webpage at Bloomberg.com. I'm Rick Horrow. Thanks for watching. See you next time.